Hi everyone, it's Tamara here from lalalandcrafts with another card making tutorial. This time I'm using the new clear stamp release Such a Ham. I'll be doing some Copic colouring of the pigs and some of the background elements, and then a card making tutorial including an interactive portion with our seesaw. So let's get started with some colouring. The die sets I'll be using today are the tree trunk die, the tree canopy die, the Hello Swing die, the seesaw die, and the mushroom and grass border die. So I'll just put some music on again now while I do the colouring of the mushroom grass border. You can also do some Copic colouring of the tree trunk and tree canopy, but I'm just doing a very quick ink blending with these, using some Distress Oxides in ground Expresso and Frayed Burlap. So for the entire tree trunk I did the Frayed Burlap, and then just for some shadow portions and a bit of added interest I'm just putting some ground Expresso to create some shadowing and just blending that out with the Frayed Burlap. So we'll set that aside to dry. And for my tree canopy, I'm using Evergreen bow and pine needles. So Evergreen bow is over the entire surface, and then for the base where the shadow portion is, I'm using pine needles. But in the end I found that it was just not giving me enough kind of darkness down the bottom, so I grabbed out my Rustic Wilderness to add some extra deepening of colour to the base of this tree canopy. So you'll see me bring that in shortly. So you'll see that it does add that nice darker rich green colour that I'm wanting for the base of my canopy. So it looks like it's sitting underneath the tree tops and the top of that tree is getting the most sun. I'm also using the Stitch cloud borders, and I've cut them out to make a couple of like stencils. So I've grabbed out some tumbled glass, and just using my domed sponge applicators, I'm just going to do a nice kind of cloud border. Just be wary if you're doing this, just to be careful not to go over the portion of your clouds where they join, because sometimes that can actually show up. So I try and just blend as far across as I can so that you're not doubling up on that cloud background. So you'll see me here just trying to line up as I work across the page, because I am working in a slimline card today, and I will have all the measurements in the description box below for you. And I just keep swapping between the two different die cuts so that it has a nice kind of variation with our clouds. So you'll see me just kind of working again to the right hand side of where I've initially laid the clouds down, so we don't have any crossover. So I'm going in with the next one. Just work in circular motions coming up off the cloud die cut, and just add the final layer there, and we'll set that aside to dry. I'll now be working on our swing and seesaw elements. Because I'm wanting the two edges to look like rope, I'm leaving that in the kind of beigey colour, but I'm wanting a timber look seat, so I've also cut it out in a brown cardstock, and I'm just attaching that after just trimming the top edges off to make that kind of a contrasting timber seat. And I've kind of done the same with the seesaw, and I'm doing the timber kind of frame, and then all the added elements on there I'm adding in the kind of beigey colour. So you'll see me just adding the two kind of rods that go up to the handles. And I should most probably have grabbed my craft pick to put this on, because it would make it easier to pick these items up. As you can see, I can't get that one up. Managed to pick that up with my nails, get that attached, and we'll add the final one to the top. So I'm wanting to make my seesaw a movable seesaw. So I've grabbed out a brad in a matching colour to our seesaw brown card base, and I'm just going to stick that through to the bottom portion of the seesaw element and just open that up. Now, if you're wanting it to remain kind of steady, make sure you press the brad down very hard so that it holds that in place. But if you're wanting it to move like I do, don't press it down quite as hard, and you'll see that it moves back and forth very easily. Now I've pre-stamped out my sentiment. I thought this was so gorgeous. Squirrel, so excited for you. I thought it works perfectly with this card. And I'm just using my scalloped die, sentiments label die, to cut that out. So I'll run that through the die cutting machine. Now our cloudy background panel has dried. I'm just adding our grassy mushroom elements. And I'm just going to overlap them to cover the entire base of our slimline card. So we'll get that attached. They're just kind of slightly going at either end, but otherwise they are covering the full bottom. Now to make our little white spots in our mushrooms, I've just grabbed some Nuvo drops. I'll have all the details in the description box below, and I'm just going to fill in our mushroom white spots on all of these. So I always, as you can see up the top, just do a quick test before applying, just to make sure it's flowing freely. So I'm going to be attaching my little pigs to all our elements, including the seesaw and the swing. So I've just grabbed out my glue, and we'll just glue those little piggies straight onto our seesaw. And then we'll also attach this little one to our swing. And we'll just set them aside to dry while we work on the rest of our scene. So I've already pre-cut and scored my card base, and I will have all the measurements in the description box below for you. So I'm just going to add our front panel to our card base before I add any of our main elements, because I will be propping some of them up with foam. And I am wanting to trim our tree down because obviously you can see that it overhangs our card quite considerably. I'm happy for it to overhang a little bit, but I'm wanting to cut off a little bit of the base to be able to have that sitting down a little bit more flush. So I've just flipped that over, and with a pencil I'm just going to mark where I'm wanting to trim that up to. So you can just grab your scissors or you can use your paper trimming machine, and then that way that fits onto our card base a little bit better. And I have left enough room behind our grass so that I can just tuck that down into the grass as well. So we'll get our tree trunk glued down. So just remember, obviously those top portions will be overhanging, so we don't want to put any glue onto the top of our tree trunk. Now I do have a little bit I do want to add, so I'm just kind of like just pulling them up gently and just applying some glue where they're going to sit on the card front. Now I'm going to attach our little pig on the swing directly to the actual tree canopy before we add it, because I will be gluing both of these on together, so it's easier to do it this way, so that you've got that perfectly lined up. So I'm just grab some of my washi tape and I'm just going to tape that in place to make sure I'm putting it in exactly the spot that I want. So then I can just pull back the top of that swing and just put a good amount of glue on there to secure that in place, and we'll give that a good press down, and we'll set that aside to dry and remove the washi tape, ready to put that on our card front. So once that's dry, I'm just going to grab some washi tape again and just work out where I want this sitting on the front of our card. And then I'm going to flip it over and just use a pencil to mark out where I don't want any glue to go. Because obviously part of that canopy will be sitting above our card base, I'm going to put glue only in the sections that are below that pencil mark. And then that includes the actual little piggy on the swing. And I do wipe off the excess on those little bits of rope because they are quite small and we just don't want them to be squeezing out any glue once we attach that. So we'll just flip that over and make sure there's no glue sticking out. Now, as our seesaw and the little piggies are going to be moving, we don't want to glue them down at all, but to keep the actual seesaw movement away from our mushroom and grass border, I'm going to pop this up with a little bit of foam tape and attach that directly to the grass. So you want it sitting above the grass. You don't want to tuck this in because you don't want any chance for those little pigs on the seesaw to hit that grass. And there they are, going back and forth on the seesaw. Now, because I don't want the seesaw pigs to go too far as well, I'm going to actually add a little bit of foam tape to our sentiment and pop that up the top, and that will only allow a small amount of movement for our pigs on the seesaw to go back and forth. So I've grabbed my tweezers and I'm going to center that just above those two little pigs and just line that up so it's straight at the top. And then the final little pig I'm just going to add under the tree, just waving at his friends, enjoying themselves on the playground equipment. And this is a finished card for this tutorial. These little piggies are so gorgeous, and with the extra elements like the seesaw and the tree and swing, it just makes such a cute scene. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see any future videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.